Kevin Durant is an absolute maniac, sending the entire NBA world on fire just in minutes or hours before free agency. It's your boy, Omar Q, joined as never by the good old Johnny G. Johnny G, you're back. Welcome back.
Johnny G back in the building. It's good to be back, Omer. I'm on that like mid-season low from the summer term from school. So it's a
Mm-hmm.
great opportunity to hop on and talk some hoops, baby. Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving setting the whole league on fire just an
Yeah,
hour before free agency set to begin.
yeah. My biggest question. So for those of you who are not aware, let's just talk about it. A few hours ago, news broke, according to Adrian Wojnarowski, that Kevin Durant, yes, Kevin Durant of the Brooklyn Nets, is asking, demanding, saying whatever you want to say. He wants a trade. He wants out of Brooklyn. This comes just a day after his teammate Kyrie Irving opted into his 1-year player option. I know a lot of people out there are confused. Right now, Miami and Phoenix look like the number one destinations for Kevin Durant. We talked about potentially he could have gone to the Trailblazers beforehand. Maybe that's still an option. Who knows at this point? The only thing that's for sure is that nothing is for sure. NBA free agency is off to a hot start, Johnny. What's your take on this KD news?
Yeah, I mean it's something that's been bubbling up to the surface. We've seen some talks kind of behind the scenes about this that he hadn't had much, if any, contact with the Nets front office. That Kyrie was using him as leverage, saying that if they didn't give Kyrie what he wanted, that both of them would leave. The Nets put out that report through back channels that they were fine with both of them leaving. And well, I guess it's be careful what you wish for because it just might happen. Now, Durant asking out, Kyrie bound to leave. The Nets are not going to go into next season with just Kyrie Irving. There is almost no chance that they could play together next season, so they'll probably get traded to different teams, which really just brings into focus what this is Kevin Durant pulling the same shit over and over and over again. We saw this when he left OKC, bouncing from a team that blew a 3-1 lead in the Western Conference Finals to Golden State, who won the title. Now he's leaving the Nets after having played. I found this stat from ESPN Stats and Info. I'll put it up here for you. The Nets have played 247 games. Of those 247, the pair has played together just 58 of those games. That's 23% of the games that they have played together since signing those contracts back in the summer of what was it 20 back in the summer of 2019. And so what you're looking at is KD trying to front run to Phoenix, maybe Miami. Philadelphia's in the mix. You mentioned Portland. There's going to be no shortage of teams throwing their hat in the ring. And unlike that situation with Anthony Davis and the Pelicans a few years ago, Kevin Durant his contract extension just kicked in. He has 4 years and 194. It might be 198, somewhere in that range. Million or 196. We'll split the difference. $1 million left on that contract. So he's going to have little say in where he moves because his only option is to pull what Kyrie did last year and just not play. So it's shocking. It's going to change the whole shape of the league. And, every free agent from this point forward, not named Jalen Brunson, is going to wait on what Kevin Durant does.
I thought you said every free agent. I thought you were about to say every free agent not named Jalen Brunson is gonna suck. Johnny's a Knicks fan. Look, we're gonna be
Knicks, baby.
following. We're gonna be following the KD stuff very closely. Obviously, I just want to go over very quickly some other news and notes from around the league right now. The Spurs have apparently pulled a qualifying offer for oh, never mind, for Kemba Walker. That's who it was. Here we go. I got it pulled up now. Spurs have reportedly pulled a qualifying Walker for Lonnie Walker, not Kemba Walker. What am I talking about? Jalen Brunson is expected to sign a 4-year, $110 million deal, 4 years with the New York Knicks. I'm a little bit out of it, as you guys can tell, but we're going to get into it. Let's get into that right now. Jalen Brunson, New York Knicks. What the hell's going on in New York, Johnny? Explain it.
Well, the way I see this, I think a lot of the criticism for this move is a little overblown. Everyone keeps comparing him to Fred VanVleet, which is essentially the contract Dallas offered Jalen Brunson, 4 years and 85.
Yeah, good
Is
contract.
is just about what Van Vliet got the first time around. But if you're comparing him to Fred Van Vliet's about to make 4-110 from the Raptors. They're about to
He's
offer
not as
him
good as
that
Fred
contract
VanVleet.
extension.
He's not as
He's
good.
not well, not yet. That's the question. He was 16-3-3 last season. Keep in mind that Luka Doncic completed last season with the 8th highest uh, usage rate, not for the season of all time, not for all time single season, 8th highest all time for the entire history of the NBA, a league with people like Larry Bird and Magic Johnson, LeBron James and Michael Jordan, Luka Doncic and James Harden, 8th all time. So what you're going to look at, what you're paying for is the projected improvement. Is it an overpay? Absolutely, it's an overpay. But it's sad. The Knicks have to overpay to get good players through the building. I don't think that that's any controversy. If you would give him 20 million, then I don't see why I care about the extra 8, right? If you'd give him
Yeah.
20 million AAV, that's 20, 40, 60, 80. I don't care about the extra 8 mil per year. That's not going to a free agent that is going to contribute. That pick that ended up becoming Ousmane Dieng going to Thunder. Ousmane Dieng's a nice player, but he's not playing on a Tibbs team. Tibbs is not going anywhere. As much as Knicks fans want him gone, and as much as I have called to have him gone, the reality is he's not going anywhere. So Ousmane Dieng or whomever they would have taken with that pick is not playing. And so to me, you're playing with house money, betting on a guy who could, I'm not saying he will, but could be an all-star, could open up the floor for the rest of that team and fills a hole that the Knicks haven't filled since John Starks left. Who was the last point guard that you can name for the Knicks that was halfway decent? Jason Kidd? Back in 2012, 13? When all he did was pass the ball around?
Did you guys have no, that was the Nets. I was about to say you guys had Mike Bibby, but that was the Nets.
No, that was the Nets, yeah. Then the Knicks haven't had any good point guards since John Starks left. And John Starks wasn't even that kind of point guard.
Didn't you guys have who was it? Did you guys have Felton?
We did. We did have Ray twice, actually.
He was good for a year. He was good for a year.
Fine.
He was really good for a year.
They sent him out as part of the Melo trade and then signed him as a free agent years later.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, I think it's a good trade. I'm a little wary. I've seen reports that they're bringing back Mitchell Robinson on 4 years and $60 million. I'm a little wary of the fit because Jalen Brunson is not a great shooter. He's primarily an on-ball slasher and a guy who makes his money in the paint. And that offensive profile is the point guard version of RJ Barrett, who is an effective slasher, a decent shooter, a decent defender who makes his money in the paint. And Julius Randle, who doesn't leave the paint unless he's taking ill-advised three-pointers, and Mitchell Robinson, who is useless outside of 3 feet. And so that's a lot of guys hanging around in the paint. I wonder if they're going to be able to get good looks. If I were the Knicks, I'd maybe consider letting Robinson walk or signing trading him and going after a guy like Mo Bamba, who plays not quite as good defense as Mitchell Robinson, but certainly a good facsimile of it and shoots. So a guy who's not going to clog the paint, but who's still long and lanky and athletic enough to get lobs and play the pick and roll. So we'll see if that's where the Knicks go. But the Mitchell Robinson, Jalen Brunson pick and roll could be something to look out for. But it's a good move. Does it move the needle in a competitive Eastern Conference that's going to get better this free agency? If the Nets implode, you're taking one team down from above the Knicks. But certainly with the DeJounte Murray move, you're thinking that the Hawks are going to be up there, replacing the Nets in the standings. Certainly Philly is going to stay up there no matter what they do. They were rumored to have an agreement with PJ Tucker. So, Charlotte, depending on what happens with Miles Bridges, who I don't know if we want to get into what happened with him more recently, but
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the mile. I mean, we'll get into the Miles Bridges thing. I just want to talk about some big news that Woj broke. Just that's the wrong one. Some big news that Woj broke just a little bit ago. Here it is. This is Adrian Wojnarowski via Twitter saying that All-Star guard Bradley Beal is agreeing to a 5-year, $251 million contract to stay with the Washington Wizards. So Bradley Beal staying with the Wizards, something that a lot of people expected coming out of yesterday. There was, he opted out, but like really everyone kind of knew that he and the Wizards had been communicating with each other, and he likely wasn't going to go anywhere, barring some sort of like insane trade or something like that. But what do you think about this move for Bradley Beal, staying put and giving it another go with the district?
Bradley Beal is the finesse god because he'll have made somewhere in the range of $400 million playing hoops and endorsements and have accomplished almost nothing since John Wall left. Everything that we point to about Bradley Beal's postseason success occurred when Bradley Beal was maybe the third option on that team. Since he's become a superstar, the Wizards have done nothing but go backwards. Every year he complains about the defense, but does Bradley Beal play defense? No. Bradley Beal scores. He's a great scorer. He's worth a lot of money, and he's the only superstar that Washington will get through the door. So they have no choice but to make this move. But is Bradley Beal worth $250 million? Absolutely not. He's going to make somewhere upwards of $60 million in the last year of that contract. Is he going to be worth $60 million? He's what, 28, 29? I think he's 28 right now. So he will be, at the last year of that contract, he'll be what, 33? He's not going to be worth $60 million as an undersized two guard, an undersized scoring two guard at 33, who's already shown evidence of decline with his very not Bradley Beal year last year. You're paying for what he did 2 years ago in 2019 before the pandemic, and you might get the production of last year for the next few years. The Wizards are paying to finish 10th, 11th.
10th, maybe 11th, he says.
That's what they're paying for. Who is their point guard? They just Monte Morris and Will Barton moving the needle for you in Washington. Your starting lineup: Monte Morris, Will Barton, Bradley Beal, Kristaps Porzingis, and I don't know what's happening with Montrezl Harrell because he also got arrested. So, what are you doing? What is that roster going to get you in the Eastern Conference? They're not better than the Knicks that we just discussed a minute ago. If Miles Bridges returns from his shocking domestic violence arrest to the Hornets, are they better than the Hornets? I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean, we have to talk about it because he is one of the premier free agents, you got to say. By the way, guys, if you're wondering what to do, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, hit that notification bell, put your questions in the chat, let us know what you guys want to talk about. We're here to answer all your questions about NBA free agency. Liam in the chat just said, yo, did you know that the actor Michael Jordan played 19 seasons in the NBA to prepare for his role in Space Jam? Absolutely, we did know that. Thank you, Liam, for always keeping it real and keeping it funny. We love it to keeping it funny. Yeah, so I mean, I think we have to talk about the Miles Bridges thing. Like it's unavoidable, and because he is one of the big free agent like out there, or at least was. I don't know what happens to his stock now that this has happened, but Miles Bridges was arrested today for, again, allegations. He was arrested for domestic violence. I can actually say that. That is what he was arrested for. Again, I don't know the full picture of it. That's what it is. And if it's true, it's terrible and he deserves to be punished. But man, there was a lot of excitement behind him. He just come off a great season with the Charlotte Hornets. The dude averaged nearly 20 points per game. He was playing with LaMelo Ball, and everyone thought that this is the year. Like he had the big uptick in his year, and then he might be one of the best young stars in the game. It's not happening though. It looks like, at least not right now.
Yeah,
And now Johnny
it's a
speaks.
very, very unfortunate situation. Sorry, my internet froze for a sec.
Okay.
It's a very unfortunate situation. So he was arrested for reporting from ESPN. He was arrested on and booked for alleged felony domestic violence. The reports are that the woman who called in the claim was bloodied when she arrived at the district. Obviously, all of this is alleged at this point. It's too early in the process. He was released on bail later in the day, but it's unfortunate. Bridges has he was photographed earlier in the year drinking lean with his rat buddies, and it just seems to be this kind of descent into foolishness. You're talking about a 25-year-old athlete who absolutely killed it last season. He was awesome. He was going to get a max contract from any number of teams, maybe even on a contender in a sign and trade with the Hornets if that's what he wanted. And you're just looking at a kid fumbling the bag. You're looking at a excellent athlete doing incredibly stupid, avoidable things, now causing extreme harm to another person.
Yeah.
It's you put up very briefly a snippet from that article, and that snippet was absolutely correct. The focus should be on the victim. The focus should not be on how good of a player Miles Bridges is, how much money he just lost from this. The focus should be that Miles Bridges allegedly put his hands on a woman and injured her severely. Again, allegedly. But that is going to be an unavoidable fact that will, again, shift the landscape of this NBA market, because he was going to get a big contract. And now I can't see any teams giving him a big contract. There is some precedent in the past for felony, for players with pending felony investigations getting contracts. The most recent would be the Timberwolves giving what's his name? From the Nuggets, that they traded for him, and then he got caught with felony gun possession. His name escapes me, but that guard from the Timberwolves would be the most recent that comes to mind. Of course, a number of players in the past have had felony possession charges.
Malik Beasley.
Malik Beasley, thank you. He's the most recent that I can think of. Of course, famously, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope played Lakers game with an anklet brace on a work release program. And so those are the kind
what a work release program they have out there in California.
Yeah.
Like that is wow.
Well, so he was on house arrest. And the work release program was you can go from house arrest to the game, and then you have to go back. You can't go anywhere else. And so he built a gym in his house and worked out there and went to the games and came back.
Okay, this is not me celebrating anything that you just said. I just have to give big shout out. Well, we have some news that's kind of like a little personal to me. So Trevelin Queen was a guy I went to middle and high school with. This dude popped off last year in the G League, won the MVP, won the Finals MVP over there. Finally, by God, Trevelin Queen has agreed to a contract with the Philadelphia 76ers. He's now in the NBA. It has been a long road for this kid. I'm very, very happy for you, Trev. Man, it's just so cool to see. It's just so cool to see. This man was a standout at New Mexico State, and now he's going to the NBA. I'm telling you, watch out. He's a young buck, and he's ready to play. So big shout out to my boy. I had to get that in. I'm a homer at the end of the day.
That is super cool, man. That is super cool. Great for him. I have some English. Good Lord. I have some more news for you, too.
Go for it.
We have DeAndre Jordan to the Denver Nuggets. We have fully guaranteed 3-year deal, $33.2 million for PJ Tucker
I'm so
to the
sorry. I'm so
Philadelphia
sorry.
76ers.
Just real quick, do you remember when DeAndre Jordan signing anywhere would have been big news? Like now it's just like whatever.
Yeah.
But like do you remember the days where DeAndre Jordan? What was the story that he rescinded?
He got locked
the
in
offer?
his house by Mark Cuban.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my god, with the NBA was crazy back then. Sorry, continue. I'm sorry.
We have Tyus Jones re-signing a 2-year, $30 million deal with the Memphis Grizzlies. On a smaller note, Davon Reed, a 2-year deal, re-signing with the Nuggets. Amir Coffey, re-signing with the Clippers. And Nikola Jokic, signing the 5-year, $264 million Supermax, making him the highest paid player in NBA history.
And he deserves
contract value.
Every single penny of it. Like there are a lot of people who want to downplay the rise and domination Nikola Jokic has had. Is he like guys? This dude is a top 5 player in this league. I don't know what else to say. Like people won't say, oh, he's maybe top 10. Like no, he's top 5. Like he is top 5. He's a back-to-back MVP. Like he's a 7-foot monster, an absolute monster. Who's gonna give you like nearly 30 a game, 10 assists and 10 rebounds. Like, come on now, guys.
Yep.
Guys, let's come on over to the logical side of things. We have some other news out of the NBA here. Along with all this, Woj is reporting that Nicholas Batum. Remember when that would have been news too? Man, I feel so old looking at some of these. Like,
he's been much better. He's been much better. He has been much better. Years.
But he also got his bag back in Charlotte. Remember when he signed that big contract back in Charlotte? So
was not a good role for him in Charlotte.
Not at all. So Nicholas Batum signed a 2-year deal with the Los Angeles Clippers. We got Lou Dort signing a 5-year, $87.5 million deal with the Oklahoma City Thunder. He's going to re-sign there. We also have some other news concerning Chris Boucher.
Boucher.
That's how he says Boucher. Sorry, Boucher.
Boucher.
This is how you know I'm American, people. Like, don't let this fool you. I am American. Chris Boucher, Bobby Boucher. No relation. Chris Boucher returning to Toronto Raptors, 3 years, $35.25 million deal. You also got Damian Jones agreeing to a 2-year deal with the Los Angeles Lakers. They just keep coming in. You mentioned Amir Coffey. I think you mentioned Tyus Jones. Daniel House, not Danielle. Not Daniel House, signing 2 years, $8.5 million, still way more money than I'll ever make. And Bobby Portis returning to the Milwaukee Bucks, big key for them. Honestly, he's a key player for them. Like I know, like the big thing with the Milwaukee Bucks was that they weren't able to replace Chris Middleton when he left, but Bobby Portis did a damn good job of trying, and he was a key contributor on that team, especially in this playoff run. Portland Trail Blazers
in that next one.
Yeah, go ahead. You want to talk about it?
Well, so the reason why I say that is because I think Anthony Simmons and Jalen Brunson have very similar profiles in the league. Guys who kind of flew under the radar for a few years after they got drafted, then just blew up last year in short amounts of time. Obviously, Simons got hurt and wasn't able to complete his breakout year. But that's why they traded CJ McCollum, to make space to pay and play Anthony Simons. So you're looking at a 4-year, $100 million extension for Simons, a guy who hasn't proven himself yet, but they're not paying for what he's done. They're paying for what they think he will become. So you're looking at a guy who he could be an all-star in the upcoming years. He's definitely a name to look out for.
Yep. The other thing we got to look out for is the chat. Guys, be sure to keep those questions, comments, concerns coming in the chat. Hit that like button, subscribe, hit that notification bell. We got Liam in the chat saying, this is our monthly reminder to watch the Converse weapon ad. That was a great ad. That was a little Larry Bird. Everybody was in that ad. Liam also says in the chat, yo, Cincy is here. And Cincy is saying that the Cavs have not done shit. They likely won't do shit. I don't even know if we'll re-sign Colin Sexton. That's probably not even going to happen either. We got Liam also.
The news on Sexton, actually, is that the loser.
Let me get through this because this concerns you as well. Liam in the chat also said, hey, Hey, I know. Hey. You
I'm
used to
eager,
be the
baby.
host. You used to be the host. Now it's mine. All right. Liam in the chat says, I like the new guy. He is not new. That is one thing. Johnny is not new. I
I'm old.
understand why you think that, Liam, but he's not new. He says, I like the new guy. Makes really good points, and the fact that he sounds like Phineas from Phineas and Ferb makes him so much better. By the way, Liam is he's a real taker. He's a real take original. He's like on every single wrestling stream I do. He pops up on all the live streams for basketball games as well. So he's an awesome dude. But yeah, Phineas, take it away.
I think I lost my complete train of thought. After that one, what was I saying?
It's Colin Sexton.
So I saw the report was that the loser of the Jalen Brunson sweepstakes was going to chase Sexton on probably somewhere between 450 and 480.
Okay, so you heard it here first. The New York Knicks are going to sign Colin Sexton. You heard it here first, folks. The losers of the Jalen Brunson sweepstakes. Yeah. I'd say the New York Knicks are about to get themselves some Colin Sexton. They're about to get Jalen Brunson. They're putting it all together. You get R.J. Barry. Put it all together. Yeah. You still don't make the playoffs, baby.
Bring me as many undersized scoring point guards as you can. I want them all.
Yeah, I'm sure you do. Yeah, I mean, it's yeah. I want to get back to the KD situation because right now we don't have an update right now. I'm glued to Adrian Wojnarowski's Twitter timeline right now.
2 years, 16 mil for Thaddeus Young to the Raptors.
It is 2022. That matters so little. Like Thaddeus Young. Thaddeus Young, man. He is like the 35th best Thaddeus of all time.
5 years, 186 extension for Ja Morant.
If Thaddeus Stevens was still alive, I'd pay him. Big shout out to Thaddeus Stevens. And
you lost everybody with that one.
The 4 people who know who that is. Here we go. Oh, this is actually news from Woj here. Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving have had no contact with the franchise after Irving opted into his deal on Monday. The sense of inevitability exists that Durant would eventually ask for a trade. So, it looks like the Nets at least saw this coming before it happened. But I do want to get back to the KD thing real quick because it does matter for a lot of people who are saying like KD's legacy or whatever, right? It like he's tearing it apart every single time he switches teams. I would say this. It depends on which time you're talking about. Because with the Golden State Warriors, I don't think it's any question that helped his legacy way more than it hurt it because he ended up going and winning. Like he has rings because of that. Like, granted, the Warriors probably would have at least been in the finals without KD those 2 years, but when he was there, he's the guy they leaned on. Like, say what you want. He might not have been the leader of that team, but he was the guy, as in the guy doing the bulk of the work who impacted the game the most, right? I understand. Like, no, I mean, like, let's be honest. Like, I'm not saying it's not only him. It's not only him. It's not
comment.
It's not only him. I'm like let me be clear. It's not only him. It was like that team was just OP. The reason I would say this is because there are a lot of people right now who are, I think, unfairly giving Kevin Durant a lot of gruff over this. If I'm Kevin Durant and I was in this situation, granted he put himself in this situation, I would have wanted out too. I would have been like, yeah, no, this is not for me because I'm out. Send me to Portland. Send me to Utah. Send me to Dallas. Send me any. Oh, God, Kevin Durant to Dallas. It's not going to happen. They have nothing to give up. But could you imagine Luka and KD?
That would be
fun.
Be killer. And it really, in a similar way to how it worked in Golden State, it would work in Dallas because KD doesn't need the ball, and frankly, KD doesn't really want the ball. He's someone who wants to very Amari Stoudemire like that. He wants to get the ball, make a move, and rip. And he
wants to go to New York and do nothing. That is what he very Amari Stoudemire like. Goes to New York, accomplishes nothing.
He wants to punch a fire hydrant and miss the most important playoff series of his life.
Oh gosh.
So
Conti-
yeah, I mean this KD news is shocking. You know,
Okay.
I think the best trade offer will be that DeAndre Ayton sign and trade
Yeah.
because he's, you know, at this point you look for the best player you get in return, and DeAndre Ayton's an excellent player. He's gonna be, I mean, what, Tyrese Maxey and Tobias Harris, not moving the needle for me. Tyler Hero, I mean, the Heat have been trying to pawn him on everybody, right? And then you're going to have to sign Hero to this extension that's going to be similar to what Brunson is going to make in New York. Is Hero better than Brunson? Is Hero better than Anthony Simons? Maybe they're all the same ilk of player. You know, the question
Yeah.
is going to be, I honestly, I think the next question is, how does this affect his legacy? How does this affect how people view Kevin
Well,
Durant in the grand
well,
scheme of
can
things?
I before we get to the legacy thing, I do want to jump around a bit. The So you said that the Suns have the best offer. Is that your prediction? Like, is it like, because like in my eyes, right? It has to be the Phoenix Suns. Like it just
Yeah,
has to be
it
because
has to be.
like unless the Heat are willing to like the only way is like the Heat would have to be willing to dismantle that entire team, which I don't like because that team has it built. Like they have the culture, the player chemistry. It's right. Like that team's gonna compete. Like say what you want. That team was in the finals 2 years ago. That team, was still competing. I think they were in the Eastern Conference Finals this year. Like they're gonna compete, and it's dependent on whether Tyler Hero and those young guys get better. But like, if you want to try to pair him with Jimmy Butler, in theory that works. But it's just you're guys gonna have to give up everything, like literally everything around them, and you're gonna
Yeah,
be left with nothing.
it's
So
a trade
I,
package centered around Bam, is what it would
yep,
have to be.
yeah, and you can't get rid of Bam Adebayo. You cannot get rid of Bam Adebayo.
No.
Like, I mean, the Suns just make sense to me. And there's a lot of people who say like DeAndre Ayton, he's not. I get in a way the criticism, not the criticism, but the amount of shit that DeAndre Ayton gets because he's gonna get it his entire career. The fact of the matter is he was a number one overall pick in a draft where Luka Doncic and Trae Young were available. Like it's damning. It's just
Yep.
to be quite right, it is damning. Like
Yeah, it
trust me,
is.
he's no Bagley. Like it's not as bad as damning as Bagley. Actually, Bagley will never get the gruff that DeAndre Ayton will get, like because no one cares. But
Yeah,
being that number one pick in that
Sacramento.
draft, yeah, being the number one pick in that draft, just it didn't. I don't hate to say it hurt his legacy, but it did hurt the way that people perceive him for sure.
Oh,
That being
absolutely.
said, dog, anyone who says like he's a bum or a bust, fuck out of here. Yeah, like DeAndre Ayton is a really good to great player sometimes in this league. Is he elite? I don't know. Nah, not really, not yet. He's still got a few. Like I think he still has a ways to go in his development, and maybe just maybe going off to another team and being forced in that situation is gonna bring that out in him. Who knows?
Yeah, I think that there's still a lot of room to grow for
Yeah.
DeAndre, and he's a guy who, in flashes, has shown elite defense, right? Not like good defense. It's a guy who plays good defense, but in flashes in the playoffs, has
Playoff.
shown elite defense. In playoffs, has shown elite defense. He's a guy who has shown an ability to score on the mid-range jumper, on a catch and shoot three, on the post up, and on the pick and roll. But on a team with Mikal Bridges, Devin Booker, and Chris Paul, there just isn't enough opportunity to go around. He's someone who, if you're going to center your attack around him, he could be a good player in that role. Someone who could fit a pick and roll with Ben Simmons very, very well, right? If Ben
Mm,
Simmons ever steps foot on the court again, if Brooklyn doesn't trade Ben Simmons, but he's a guy who I think is a max player and is a guy who is going to grow into the role. He's 25. Big men tend to take longer than the guards do. Obviously, he's not Joel Embiid or Nikola Jokic, of course, but you're looking at a very, very good player who's going to complement a quality team well. As your centerpiece, well, probably not. But honestly, I just have no idea what that Brooklyn roster is going to look like if they end up with Ayton. I liked Ayton to Detroit, but they just re-signed. Who did they just re-signed their center? The young kid. I forget his name, but they just brought him back, and I think they re-signed Kelly Olynyk as well. So I don't think that's going to happen. The next one that I saw rumored was Detroit, San Antonio, but with moving DeJounte Murray the other day, I think they're putting all their chips in for Victor Wembanyama next year. So I don't know if they would want to make a move that moves the needle like that in such in a year where they might be looking to tank. But
Interesting.
with Greg Popovich, maybe he doesn't want to tank and he just didn't like DeJounte Murray.
Yeah, I mean, he probably didn't. Like, to be honest with you,
Yeah.
I could
I
see
mean, they
Pop
traded
just
him for a
being
bag of
like,
chips.
"It's not working, brother. It's not working, brother. Like, get out."
Yeah, it's just, at 29, he probably didn't fit the timeline that they're looking at. But at 16, 17 mil for the next like 2 seasons, that's a role player contract, right? Like he's making less money than Duncan Robinson, who the Heat are desperate to pawn off on people. So to me, to not get John
I,
Collins back in
I
that
gotta,
trade is just
I
shocking.
gotta touch on that. I gotta touch on that. What is your problem with Tyler Hero? Or sorry, would you say Tyler Hero or Duncan Robinson?
I said Duncan Robinson.
What is your problem with Duncan Robinson? I feel like
He,
Duncan
he makes
Robinson's like,
19 million and does nothing. He
oh
was
come
out of
on.
the He was out of the Heat rotation for like 60% of the season, and only brought him back because of injuries. Kyle Lowry wasn't playing, and they needed more shooters. But he's 6'7" Sheen, and from Jimmy Neutron, and he weighs like 210 pounds. The man's 6'7". Like he's getting pushed around in every position. It's not like he's 6'4", 240 and plays good defense. It's not like he is like he's the difference between him and Joe Harris is that Joe Harris plays defense. And so you can have him at that salary and he's a productive player if he's not hitting his shots. Duncan Robinson shot like 32% for the first like 2 months of the season, and he's a turnstile in defense. He's unplayable. He got his numbers back up by the end, but for the period of time that he was really bad, he's a useless. He's bench filler. That you're paying $20 million to for a contender that has no margin for error, who needs that shooting because that's their worst team skill. It's a tough fit for Miami. On a different team, it's a different scenario. It's got nothing to do with Duncan Robinson, but it's got everything to do with a player not playing up to his potential and being overpaid on a championship team.
Well, it looks
it's
like
the same shit that people give Tobias Harris.
yeah. But I feel like Tobias Harris though is like more of a, I don't know. I feel like Tobias Harris is like kind of like a very solid player to have. Like like he's not great. He's not even good really. He's just solid. Like
Yeah, it's an issue of scale because he makes more money but does more things.
But that's just the NBA, bro. That's just the NBA. Like the market is like you have these players just making insane amounts of money compared to where they were a few years ago. Like Simon and I were talking about it. It's inflation. It's inflation. Like sports contracts, as time goes on, they just get bigger because not because of inflation, but like just because that's what the market dictates. I mean, it's just that's simple. I mean, so that's why you have like a guy like it was an NFL example, but Chase Daniel, like Chase Daniel has collected nearly $50 million in his career, started 5 games, $10 million per start, right? Like that is, I mean, that's someone who's played the market right. Like, forget GameStop, forget Doge, Bonk, all that stuff. Like, he has played the market right there. He's been sacked like twice in his career. 2 hits,
hands, baby.
2 hits, $50 million.
I think he started like 13 games in his whole career. He's been in the league for like 8 seasons.
He's played in 13 games.
Yeah, and he's started 13 games.
Oh,
He's
he has
probably
started 13?
I think he started 13 games, and one of them was probably like a season that a starter got hurt. So he probably started like a bunch
Oh, that's
in
easy. He's like,
there.
damn it, I actually have to work for my money? Like, oh
He's
my
the
God.
clipboard supreme.
I mean, yeah, like, I did a segment a while back where I called Sam Bradford the biggest swindler in NFL history. Chase Daniel really takes a game. No, here it is. Chase Daniel started 5 games. 5 games in his
Wow,
career. 5 games in his career.
5 games. Oh
5 games,
my god,
1,700 yards, 8 touchdowns, 7 picks.
$50 million.
$50 million. He just signed. Another team just signed him. He re-signed with the Chargers. He's out here. Chase Daniel, if you're listening, man, like I have, boy, do I have a few business opportunities for you, my friend. Hit me up at Real Take Sports. Subscribe to the YouTube channel before you do that, though. Hit that like button, subscribe, hit that notification bell. It looks like Twitter might be down. Like, from the looks of it, at least for a lot of people, Twitter is down. So in case you're not getting an update from Woj and Shams, that's probably why. I know
it's
mine's
gotta be the worst time to have Twitter go down.
yeah. I mean, mine's been glitching all day at work, so it just be like that sometimes. But luckily, Twitter is not the only mode of information gathering that I have. Let's talk a little bit more about the Portland Trailblazers signing Simons to that 4-year, $100 million contract. Dude had 17 points last year per game. He was a 40-40 guy. Like, he shot 40% from the field, 40% from three-pointers. Like, I know that here's the thing, and it's going to go back to Kevin Durant because it always has to. Like, is it possible that this is a guy that there may be, like, that you might, like, you just sign him to a contract, you might just send him over? Is he worth it, you think?
Yeah, I mean, as a franchise, like, he's a point guard, right? He's another guy who's
Mm-hmm.
like 6'1" to 6'4", wants the ball in his hands, is gonna score, doesn't play a ton of defense, but he's a good facilitator. And really, with the trade of CJ McCollum and the injury to Dame, he finally got some runway after being buried on the Blazers bench for all those years. And so he's a guy that earned that money. There's no doubt about it. I think he's going to be a 17 to 22 point per game scorer. You're looking at a guy who's going to be a 4 to 7 assist guy, maybe a 2 to 4, maybe 5 rebounds game guy. He's going to be impactful for your team. He's a guy who he's not going to lead you to a championship. He doesn't have superstar potential. He's not going to be a first team all NBA guard or anything like that. But he's an excellent player with room for improvement at 25 on a team with championship aspirations. He can play well off of Dame, and because he's learned to play behind Dame and CJ, he can play off the ball. And so if you're looking to make a trade centered around him, you would have to send him, and you'd probably consider sending Jeremy Grant, that they just signed, back as well. Or they're considering. Are they traded for Jeremy Grant? They traded for Jeremy Grant.
Yeah, they traded for him.
Um,
Probably Nurkic.
So yeah, you'd probably send one of those two back to make the money work. But I mean, if Simons is making 25 and Grant is making about like 20 to 22, then maybe Brooklyn sends somebody like Patty Mills back to make the salary work, and then Portland has to inundate them with picks and pick swaps.
It's gonna be so many. All the picks.
All the picks.
All the picks.
And then so Portland would fill out the roster with veterans, and that's a championship team. Dame, Durant, and Jeremy Grant or Yusuf Nurkic. That's the championship roster.
You know what's insane? It's funny. We meme the Knicks a lot, right? We meme the Knicks a lot, and for like, to be quite frank, it's for good.
Very good reason. Very good reason.
Like,
very good reason.
Terribly managed franchise. Like, even Knicks fans will agree with me. Like, that franchise has been managed terribly for the past nearly 30 years now. But we meme the Knicks, but at the same time, the Nets have had what people at least thought were two like generational, life changing like moments of free agency or trade, whatever you want to call it, right? There was the big moment when KG, Paul Pierce, they got the Celtics 2008 championship team, basically. They got it.
5 years too late, but yeah.
Yeah, and Jason Terry. Don't forget about the Jet. They got all that, right? They got it all, and it didn't produce. And then what was it like? Probably like about 10 years later. Yeah, right around 10 years later. Yeah, or not 10 years. 8 years later. KD. It's not KG no more. It's KD decides, hey, me, Kyrie, we're gonna make it work here, and it just didn't work.
Yep.
There should be serious.
Let's not forget those early Nets teams too. Jason Kidd, Vince Carter.
Here's the thing. The thing about that Nets team, they actually got to the finals. Like that Jason Kidd's Nets team actually got to the finals. So I'm not gonna hate as much on that, but we got to start memeing the Nets. You got to start joking about them now. Now you are allowed to joke about the Nets. If you are a Knicks fan, I give you permission on behalf of the entire NBA fandom. Make fun of the Nets because they deserve it. They have pissed away, and they have gone all in. They should have gotten rid of Kyrie Irving. They should not have. I mean, I understand you don't get KD without Kyrie. I just don't think you make that bet. And whatever team does make that bet with Kyrie, because a team's going to do it. The NBA is desperate enough. A team is going to do it, and a team's likely going to blow up their roster for it. That's the other question I wanted to ask you. Because we're talking about KD, obviously, because he is, in my opinion, he's pound for pound the best player. Talent-wise, I don't think it gets much better than KD. When he actually wants the ball in his hands, he's the best scorer in the NBA, arguably the best scorer of all time, talent-wise. But when we're talking about this, the person who gets lost in the shuffle because he's never here is Kyrie Irving. It's funny. Even when we're talking about Kyrie, he's not here. What do you make of this? So Kyrie Irving, right? Part of this team, and he didn't show, he just never showed up to work. Quite frankly, I know a lot of people don't like me saying that or whatever. Some of his reasons I think were more valid than others, but he just didn't show up to work. The first year, he just said, I don't want to play without KD. He just said, I don't want to play without KD. I'm not going to be there. Bye. Okay. Fair enough. KD was out for the year. Whatever. Okay. Second year, Kyrie takes the break. I'm like, okay, he's getting his mental health right. Okay, that's fine. Then he takes another break, and he's like, I gotta get away. Okay, fair enough. Then this year happens, and it's like, okay, yeah, granted, your choice, right? Your choice. But at this point, dog, you basically just not showed up. And sometimes for questionable reasons, sometimes for very valid reasons. But you just haven't showed up. Part of the deal of this is you got to show up and play, right? And it's not just a Nets thing. Here's the thing. He didn't just do this with the Nets. The second that Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown proved their worth in Boston and proved that they could go to the Eastern Conference Finals without Kyrie, what did he do? He came before a packed TD Garden and said, I'm going to be here next year, to promptly go to the front office and say, I want out. Just like he did with the Cavs, because they're coming off of making the finals 3 years in a row, winning a title because of a shot that Kyrie Irving made. And what did Kyrie do? I want to be the number one guy on the team. Here's the thing. The narrative that Kyrie is a diva, the narrative that Kyrie is a little at least self-centered, I think we can all agree. He's at least a little self-centered. We all are to an extent, but come on. With Kyrie, it's more obvious than not. But it is, for whatever team it might be yours. I hope it's not mine. It probably won't be mine. He's never going back to Cleveland, thank God. We got Darius Garland. We're fine. But we're at whatever team it is, whether you're LA, because that's apparently being thrown around. Him going to the Clippers is being thrown around if the John Wall thing doesn't work out. There's a. It's interesting. It's interesting, Kyrie, because that's a guy I don't really see where he fits in. Like I really don't see where Kyrie fits in like perfectly outside of like even like the Lakers, right? There's this whole theory that they can pull off something with the Lakers. So you're gonna trade a guy with a 1-year player option for another guy with a 1-year player option in Russell Westbrook, basically, and a bunch of picks that likely won't matter. Like I just don't see where he fits into all this. I don't know if you can provide any insight on the Kyrie situation.
No, the Kyrie situation is about as head scratching as it gets, because as of right now, teams don't see a 27 point per game scorer who is going to put up 50, 40, 90 and is one of the best point guards in the league. All of those things are true about Kyrie Irving. He is an unbelievable player. But that stat that I mentioned earlier, that's what teams see. That that the two of them played 23% of the games together. That the three of them, those two plus James Harden, played 20 games together, maybe through that tenure. That's what teams see. They see a guy who thinks one thing and then changes his mind the next day. They see a guy who is not interested in being a team player, who's not interested in receiving coaching, who believes that he is the coach. You remember when he said that about Steve Nash, that there is no head coach, that it's a collaborative effort.
Yeah.
That's what teams see, right? And so no team wants to bring that kind of player into their locker room. As the Celtics will attest to, and as the Cavs will attest to, and now as the Nets will attest to, that no team wants to bring that kind of player in their locker room, no matter how talented they are. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that finding someone who is then, because of that, going to pony up the $37 million in matching salary and give you players that are valuable, that are going to get you your return on investment, it's not going to happen. Right? You're going to get back the Tobias Harrises of the world. You're going to get back the Russell Westbrooks of the world, the Julius Randles of the world, the mediocre contract that other teams say, we'll trade our basket case for your basket case and see what happens. It just so happens that the Nets basket case and Kyrie Irving is one of the best players in the league when he's deciding he wants to play basketball. And there's no parallel to Kyrie Irving in this league. And if you're not trading him 1-for-1 for another star, you're not getting back equal value. You will take 75, even 50% on the dollar because of the situation that's going on here, especially because he's not going to sign an extension, right, with any team that trades for him. And so you're looking at a rental on top. So that's the third thing, that you're looking at a rental on top of all of that, because he's shown that he has no interest in sticking to his word. That whatever he says publicly does not matter, because anything can happen. And so, maybe he has explanations behind the scenes stuff that we don't know about. Sean Mark did this. Joe Tsai said that. Steve Nash is a complete tool. I can't. Whatever his excuses are, I don't see any team sitting there and saying, yes, we buy that. We think you're a great person and a great player, and we're going to mortgage our future to put our chips in to get you. Right? Who's going to do that? And so there are few teams that are suitors for Irving's services that would realistically make a trade partner for the Nets. And I think that situation is going to be a continuation of the high stakes chicken that they've been playing these last few weeks. It's very different than Durant, who will have an endless amount of suitors willing to pony up top dollar, and the Nets will have the pick of the litter on Durant, and we'll see if what happens with Ben Simmons too. The Nets reports are that everyone's on the table, and the Nets are looking to blow it all up. So
yeah, if KD's gone, I'm sorry, KD's gone. I mean, you got it.
And maybe that's the solution too, is you attach other players to Kyrie Irving to get requisite value, because you send out Kyrie Irving and someone like Nicholas Claxton, you give up some value, but in relation to what you would get for just Kyrie Irving, you might get more in return comparatively. So maybe the Nets look into that. But, again, that $37 million is going to be a tough number to get to for a lot of teams. And it's going to involve piecemeal role players, or overpaid starters. So it's just not going to be fruitful for the Nets. On top of that,
Man.
acquiring Kyrie Irving, you're putting your chips all in for a championship. You're not rebuilding, so you're not giving up your best 2 or 3 players to get him. That would defeat the purpose of acquiring him in the first place. So it really is a tough situation. I don't see it being easy for the Nets to find a trade partner until they're willing to take 50 cents on the dollar. And maybe they are. Maybe they just say, fuck it, get the hell out of here, dude. We're fucking sick of you. And then they just send him out somewhere that he doesn't want to be because he can't say shit about it. And maybe that's how they try to get the last laugh there.
Man, to me, this is like prime Vlade Divac trade value right here. Like, this would be... could you imagine if he was still the GM of the Kings? Vlade Divac would be looking at Kyrie Irving and be like, oh, that's him. That's him. I want him. Like it would have been.
That's my guy.
It would have already happened by now. God bless Vlade Divac.
Oh, yeah. They would have traded him last week.
What's up?
They would have traded him last week. Hard cap themselves and fuck their roster and construction up for the free agency.
But he would have been like, oh my God, I have Kyrie Irving now. It would have been amazing. Some good news for Brooklyn Nets fans. Not everybody is out the door and leaving. Patty Mills has agreed to a 2-year contract extension to return to the Brooklyn Nets, $14.5 million deal. Honestly, this is great value for Patty Mills, a guy who I thought stepped up pretty well in the playoffs for them. Considering what they were, everything that was going on around them, I thought he did very well in throughout the playoffs. But I mean, what do you think about this? Hey,
it's an interesting trade. I'm a little surprised.
They got him. They got Patty Mills. Proud of them.
It's an interesting trade. I'm a little surprised. Just because
it's not a trade, they're re-signing him.
Yeah, re-signing. Excuse me. It's an interesting. I was a little too quick there. It's an interesting re-sign because it means that they can't trade him for 6 months, right? So that means he's not someone that can be involved in any of these trade discussions. He's someone that will be on the Nets roster on opening day because he just agreed to this deal. Now, that being said, look for him to not finish the season on the Nets roster. This will be a guy who will be highly coveted at the trade deadline because of everything that you just said. He's a guy who, he's very Andre Iguodala-like. He's like an offensive Andre Iguodala.
Yeah, he's a better scorer than Andre Iguodala.
Yeah, he's a guy who's going to give you, an excellent 15 minutes off the bench. Not a guy who's going to give you starter minutes. Not a guy who's going to be a star player for you. But on the right team, the right contender, as a quality role player, this is a guy who really packs above his weight and is going to make a not Nets contender very happy when he's traded at the trade deadline next season. But all in all, it's a good value signing. I'm a little surprised. I guess CAA and Patty Mills weren't aware of the Durant situation before the signing because this, he could have waited, gotten this from the MLE after, guys like Beal, Levine signed, Durant's traded, Irving's traded. He could have waited until some of the cap situations were a little bit more settled and then gotten that $7 million annual value from a team mid-level exception.
Oh.
But he said it, so good for him. Money in the bank.
Oh, here we go. There we go. Johnny, it is official. It's officially official. Free agent guard Jalen Brunson, armed with I love the wording on this tweet is amazing. Armed with a 5-year, $106 million plus contract offer, is headed into a meeting with the New York Knicks within an hour. So, I mean, I just love the wording of it. Woj is amazing. What a wordsmith he is. On top of being the best basketball reporter out there, this man is just armed with he's locked and loaded with this offer, and he's going into New York being like, I'm gonna destroy this place. Yeah. Like this is not great. Not great
They're
for your next
25
year.
million short. Well, that's a look at it's 5 year 106 million. So all right, you're not okay. Not great for Knicks game because they're gonna get him. Is what you mean?
Oh yeah, yes. Well, because they're gonna spend all the capital on them. I mean, if I'm you know what, it sucks because if the Nets were like in any other division, even though the divisions I guess matter less, I'm just like, then if I'm the Knicks, right? What's an offer you could try to make to the Nets to get KD? Like, there's got to be something, right? Because he's on the books for like the next few years. Like that's just the reality. Like he's got 4 years left on his deal, right? So there's got to be something. There's got to be something. So what can the Knicks do to get Kevin Durant today?
Centers around RJ Barrett. Any offer that the Knicks would send out for Kevin Durant would center around RJ Barrett, and they would build their team around Brunson, Durant, and Randall. They would send out
Dangerous trio. Like the big three, like the big three generation me, baby. Let's go.
Yeah, that would be something. I don't think it's gonna happen. I would much.
Oh, that would, you know what that would do? That would pack the Garden. That would
pack
Durant
the Garden in a
for every game.
Pack the Garden. See, Durant. Let's go back to the Bing Bong video. KD, don't you regret not signing with the Knicks? If Durant and Irving had signed those contracts with the Knicks back when the Knicks had the cap space to do so, they would. They had Randall back then. They had a couple of the rookies that they currently have on roster back then. You're looking at a quality team with very few holes offensively and defensively if those two had signed that now. But to mortgage my future, to trade for a guy who I don't know if he's going to want to be here a year, 2 years from now. Kevin Durant is a top, 3 player in the league. He's Kevin Durant. It goes without saying. But do I want to give up? It would be such a Knicks move to give up everything you have.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I'm trying to
with an incomplete roster.
Trying to get into the mind of the Knicks management here. Like I'm trying to be one with the Knicks.
You would be. I don't know if we got Stranger Things fans out there. A little spoiler here, but you'd be in Vecna's lair, trying to get into the mind of Leon Rose and James Dolan. You'd be trapped in there, having your soul sucked out, or whatever the hell it is he did.
Can I ask you a question? Like, okay, full honesty here. James Dolan, if you were in a room with James Dolan, I'll put it this way: if you were in a room with James Dolan today, unencumbered for 30 minutes, what would that conversation be like? How would that go?
I might just see if someone could give me Charles Oakley's number and let me switch. Let Charles Oakley do the talking, because that is a man.
There ain't gonna be much talking if that's the case. There ain't gonna be much talking.
What is there to ask James Dolan? Why do you continually hire incompetent management? Why do you continually allow your friends to run the team? Why do you run the Knicks and the Rangers so differently? I just don't understand. As a Rangers fan, that team is well run. That team is structured. That team has quality players. It doesn't have to overpay to get dudes to the door. People want to play for the New York Rangers. They're not always, the best team in the league, but we just saw a team with an average age of like 26 go to the Eastern Conference Finals and really give the Lightning a run for their money. Sure, they had a 2-1 lead in that series and they blew it, or a 2-0 lead, excuse me, and they blew it. But that's a well-run organization that makes good decisions. And I just, where is that energy for the Knicks? Where is it? Why do we have Isaiah Thomas sexually harassing staffers and then put in charge of the Liberty? Why do we have 6 coaches and 4 general managers and then you fire people and bring them back? Why has Leon Rose spoken to the media once since he was hired 2 years ago? I don't understand
I can answer that last
anything
one
that
for you.
that team
I can
does.
answer that last one for you. It's because he doesn't have an answer.
Well, yeah, I mean,
He just doesn't have an like. He
He's
has
gonna get the
no
George
answer.
Bush treatment, have shoes thrown at him.
It's like, fool me one time, shame on. Fool me, you can't
So
get fooled again. Except the Knicks get fooled every time.
every time. So
I mean,
what can you do? You just keep taking bites at the apple and pray that a broken clock is right twice a day, and you're there for the day.
it's just so. It is weird. Like you mentioned the Rangers example. Like he does run that organization. You know what I think it is? He doesn't really run that organization. I think he is all in on the Knicks. He's just like
I don't think he runs either organization. Like he doesn't.
No. But he cares more. Like here's the thing. He cares more about the Knicks, obviously. Personally, he sees himself. I'm not saying he's like day to day. He's not day to day, right? No billionaire really is. He's not day to day, except for maybe Jerry Jones, because Jerry Jones is a maniac. But
He's the GM.
yeah, he's a maniac. And also not a great GM. Just saying that. Anyway, but no, back to Dolan real quick. Like with the Knicks, I feel like there is that kind of possessional thing of this is mine, and he might, and he's definitely not day to day, but he definitely does put his stamp on nearly like every big thing associated with the franchise and make a bigger deal out of like small things. Like the whole Spike Lee thing, you mentioned Oakley. He kicked out like 12-year-olds or whatever who were chanting fire Dolan. Like what a petty human being that is. It'd be one thing, right? Here's the thing. If there was an owner with like credibility, right? If there was an owner with credibility, if Jerry Buss, right, during one of the Lakers' three-peats, right, if Jerry Buss heard a fan saying sell the team, and he says get him out of here, I'd have way more sympathy for Jerry Buss. I'd be like, hey man, I don't know why he's saying that. Like he deserves to get kicked out. Like you don't say that to someone like who's helped make this team into what it is. But with Dolan, it's like. You're one of the prime reasons that players don't want to go here. Like that's what it is. KD probably would have gone to the Knicks. You don't think KD and LeBron wanted to play in the Garden at any point in their career? They probably did. But they were like, I'm not trying to deal with this. They're not trying to deal with the BS. Well, LeBron
chose an arguably worse ownership situation in Jeannie Buss. So.
Well, okay. Now I'm talking about I'm mainly talking about the first time with when he went to Miami.
Yeah,
Miami was like actually the perfect place for him to go. Like that first time.
Like, it was. He needed Riley.
He needed Riley. Like, and that team meshed together. Like that's the other thing. Like I know LeBron gets a lot of gruff over his time in Miami, or his decision at least to go to Miami. But man, I mean, like that team accomplished like a lot. Like whether it's on the court. Whether it's, just making the NBA, like, really, really relevant in a time where, like, it needed a big star. LeBron became that big star. You could argue the enemy. He did become that enemy and then became the hero when he came back to Cleveland, won a chip, and had the greatest performance in an NBA Finals in basketball history. But yeah. Guys, by the way, hit that like button, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Johnny, I know you got to head out in a little bit. Probably, like, when do you need to head out? I'm just gonna ask you.
Probably sometime soon. But if you got one more topic, we can hit that. I'm not in a terrible rush, but I do gotta get going soon.
All right, cool. We'll do a hard stop at hard stop as in like maximum 7:30. That sound good?
Okay.
Like that probably before that, but like maximum. I do want to ask you what. So we have some other news pouring in, by the way, from Woj and Shams. So I'll just go through. We saw the Jalen Brunson news. Actually, nope. Where is it? Oh, sorry, I was reading off of somewhere else. But okay, no. The other thing I wanted to talk to you about was with the John Wall situation that's developing still. John Wall gets bought out from his contract in Houston, and now he is eligible to be a free agent. He's basically already agreed, apparently, to terms with the Los Angeles Clippers, it seems like. tampering hashtag. But what do you make of that? What do you make of John Wall potentially going to the Los Angeles Clippers?
So the Clippers are a very interesting scenario because they were also one of the teams rumored to be in on Kyrie Irving. I think that the John Wall signing is good insurance for Kyrie Irving because Wall, he's a bit of a mixed bag. You don't really know what we're going to get out of him right now. He's a guy who, has essentially played like 40 games in 4 seasons. So, and he wasn't bad. He's a guy who has a game that, although was predicated on speed offensively, he's still a good defender. He's still pretty quick. His legs should be healthy. A guy who I think his injury was Achilles. So maybe someone, because it wasn't ACL, or maybe his first injury was ACL, and then the second was Achilles. But a guy who still has some decent speed and athleticism, and most importantly, he plays decent defense. Who's sound fundamentally on defense, and that's going to be huge for the Clippers because Reggie Jackson doesn't play defense at all, and so you're getting kind of the inverse of Reggie Jackson, who's an on-ball scorer, who is going to put the ball in the net, and who is capable of very J.R. Smith like just turn off your brain and score. And sometimes it's great, and sometimes it's not so great. But John Wall is a very cerebral player. He's a good locker room presence. No one ever said, despite the issues, no one ever has had a bad thing to say about John Wall in Washington. I think he still might be Bradley Beal's best friend. And
Yep.
so
He is the best friend of Bradley Beal and the owner of Rose Bar. Continue.
yeah. So, John Wall is a good player. Is he a starter? I don't know. He might be, but I'm probably leaning towards no. But you're talking about a guy who's going to give you 20-ish solid to great minutes a game, and if it turns out that he can give you starter minutes, then that's fantastic. They won't need him to because they have Reggie Jackson, so they'll split that role, and I imagine Jackson will probably still start given the continuity and the commitment they've shown to him. But Wall's a good signing for that. He's a great depth piece who I think has the potential to be a lot more than what I think is 9 million or 7 million or whatever whatever he gave back to
It's 9
Houston.
million.
Yeah, so it'll be 9 million, and that's the same contract that Kemba Walker signed. So and maybe we saw how that worked out for the Knicks. So we'll see. That's kind of the analogy is Kemba Walker, and we'll see if for Wall, being a little bigger, being a little bit more fundamentally sound on both sides of the ball, puts him in a better opportunity to succeed on a better team, of course, than Kemba Walker did with the Knicks.
Can I
now
ask you
Kemba's a free agent, so we'll see where he goes to.
Can I ask you? So I have two more questions before we just wrap this up.
Sure.
I just one quick note before that though. No surprise here. Suns guard Devin Booker signed his supermax deal, are finalizing the supermax deal, 4 years, $214 million. Another guy who deserves every single penny of it. So I want to talk about Paul George very quickly because we mentioned the idea of Kyrie Irving being involved in the trade, and like the one situation where I could see this happening is where Kyrie Irving gets traded to LA, plays to play with Kawhi, and along with some other players like you mentioned earlier. But the crux of the fact would be Kyrie Irving for playoff P. And here's my thing, right? If it was Kyrie Irving, if I knew I was going to get Kyrie Irving for like 60 games and the entire playoffs, right? If I knew that going in, I'd be like, hell yeah. Get him in there, pair him with Kawhi. You'll have John Wall, you'll have Jackson. Like that is going to be it's going to be guard heavy down there, but it's going to be that team has a better chance to compete. And with the Nets, you'll get the picks and you'll also get like PG, like not a bad trade-off, in my opinion, because say what you want, playoff P is going to be there. But what do you think about that?
Yeah, I don't see them moving PG. Any effort to add Kyrie Irving would be to complement those two. Because PG is under contract.
What are you gonna give up
Uh,
though to complement those two? You got nothing to
like,
give up.
yeah, but nobody like that's where the Nets are SOL, right? They don't have leverage. Teams will just say, "All right, fine, we won't trade for him. We'll get him next year. Like, go fuck yourself." That he doesn't want to be there. The Nets don't want him. So if I'm a team that says that, I say, yeah, like what is your leverage? What are you holding over me? We're not going to get him.
Okay. We
So
have
what does it matter?
Brian. Sorry, we have Brian Windy saying something. Saying
Ooh,
it was floated to me that the Lakers would potentially have a package that could trade for both Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant.
I did
Just
see
when,
that. I did see
just
that.
when you think I'm gone, they pull me back in. Oh my God, Johnny Corleone, tell me what you think about this. The Lakers mulling a trade for Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant. What the fudge, bro? What the
Yeah,
fudge? So
and
LeBron is
I'm mulling
Le GM at it again.
I'm mulling marriage proposals to Scarlett Johansson and Selena Gomez. So I would say that's probably just as, if not more, realistic than Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving going to the Lakers. At the end of the day, I think if they can make the money work for one of them, Kyrie wouldn't be horrifically unrealistic. Because, like I said, the Nets will not get value in return for Kyrie Irving. But the Nets will get, and this is where the sticking point is, the Nets will get value for Kevin Durant. They don't have to settle on a Kevin Durant trade and take less than he's worth. You're going to get less than he's worth because he's Kevin Durant, and you can't replace that. But they're not gonna take less than what they can get. The Lakers cannot offer the best offer for Durant. They can't. It's not gonna happen. What are you gonna take? HT and Malik Monk? Come on now, I'm tired of this.
AD.
So tired of this.
Give up. You'd have to give up AD.
It would have to be AD and Westbrook.
Here's my thing: if it's AD and if the Nets are willing to accept that, I'm doing it. If I'm the Lakers, I'm just doing it. Yeah, that is a great trade for me. I'm like, you want me to give up the dude who's never here, and the dude when he is here, he's basically never here? Hell yeah, let's go. Let's go. Run it back. LeBron, Kyrie, and Kevin Durant on the same team. This is my franchise mode from NBA 2K11 come to life is what this is.
Gosh.
The free agencies in 2K are nearly undefeated, but if this happens, it trumps all of that. Windhorse isn't the only one talking about that, by the way. So it's like the Lakers are at least like definitely like not even floating this out there. They're probably having discussions. Like, and damn well this is the work of LeGM. This is LeGM. Yeah. Look, hate on LeBron all you want for this, and probably rightfully so, because it is just him saying I own this league. But at the same time, this would be absolutely crazy.
This is where I almost miss David Stern, because David Stern would look at that and say, absolutely not. Absolutely not. That's not happening.
The other report here is from ESPN saying that Kyrie Irving is all in on forcing a trade to the Lakers centered on Russell Westbrook.
Yeah, and honestly, that becomes infinitely more realistic now that Durant is not going to be on that roster starting next season. Because if I'm the Nets, I say, okay, you give me THT, you give me Russell Westbrook, and you give me all the picks and pick swaps that you can muster, and all I have to do is bet on your downfall. Like, didn't the Pelicans just win that bet like last year? So I wouldn't think that Russell Westbrook might be the best player that you get in return for Kyrie Irving, and given that it's a 1-year deal and the Nets aren't going to be looking to end anymore, okay.
That team, though, let's for kicks and giggles, that team: Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant, LeBron James. I don't care who else you got. I don't care. I don't care who else you got.
Nobody else. Can't afford anybody else.
I have never been to a game at Staples Center that is enough to entice me to fly out to LA and attend a sorry, no, I will never attend a game at Staples Center, but that was enough to get me to LA and go out to Crypto.com Arena.
Get married in the crypt.
Yeah. I'll go out to Dave Rubin country. Hello, everyone. And go to the Crypto.com Arena and watch the Lakers. Just watch the Lakers. Just be in disbelief that this is actually happening. Like, I would have to see it in front of my own eyes just to try to believe that this is happening. My God, the NBA is a wild, wild time. Johnny G, I have one final question here for you, and it's a doozy. It is an absolute doozy. Oh, James Harden, by the way, is meeting with the 76ers to confirm his new deal. Not the new deal I want.
That'll be a 3-year deal.
It's not the
lots
new
of green
deal.
Involved, though.
It's not the new deal I want, but
it will be a green new deal, but not in the way that you want.
The funny thing is, I'm not even talking about that new deal. I'm talking about another new deal. We're overdue for one. America needs a new contract, folks. We need a new deal.
You're turning off the 4 viewers with the lefty politics. Come on,
dude. I have a segment called Snowflake of the Week on my show where I just berate Aaron Rodgers, Cole Beasley, and I did one on Jason Whitlock. That even right wingers were like, yeah, yeah, yeah. Hey man. Hey, it's okay though. It's okay. Hey, the left is winning in sports right now. Even Stool God El Presidente said he's voting for Biden, even though that's not exactly what. Anyway, guys, we're getting way off topic here. It's okay. We're having fun here. I got Johnny G here. 2 minutes off the half hour mark here. At 7 o'clock. Yeah, that's totally something someone on radio would say. Last question here. New York Knicks. It always goes back to the Knicks. New York Knicks. What's the outlook? Like genuinely, what is the outlook for the next few years? Will they be able to compete with the roster that's currently constructed, assuming they bring in Brunson?
It depends on what you mean by compete. Is this team going to win a championship?
Will they compete for a title?
Not going to compete for a title. They're competing for the 5th seed, right? Even with Brunson. Let's say Brunson averages 22 and 7, right? And let's say you put that on the roster. He makes his money, right? Best case scenario. What is that? At RJ's 25, 7 and 5, right? Best case scenario, and Julius Randle stops being the worst player in basketball. Best case scenario, what are they? 4 seed? They still don't play great defense. Their lane is still clogged. They're still ISO dependent. It's just you win with stars in this league. You win with stars. And as much as I love RJ Barrett, I don't think he's a number 1 in a championship team. I think he genuinely could be a number 2 in a championship team. And if not, he'd be a great number 3. But he's not going to be a 1 on a championship team. And if you don't have that, then you're not winning a championship. It's as simple as that. People want to hate on Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown all they want. Jason Tatum is a number 1 in a championship team. And they lost that series because he played like ass. He was terrible in the finals. But they got there because he's that guy. The Knicks don't have that guy. And with this team, they'll be watchable, thankfully. They'll be over 500, thankfully. They'll make the playoffs, thankfully. But they don't have their Trae Young, their Jason Tatum, their Joel Embiid, their Jimmy Butler. They don't have that guy. Even LaMelo Ball, even some of these younger guys coming up in the Eastern Conference, they don't have them. Cade Cunningham, the Magic with Jalen Green and Chet Holmgren. The Knicks don't have that guy, and so your ceiling's going to be limited no matter what. But that being said, I'm excited to at least field a competitive roster and hopefully finish over 500, make the playoffs, and whatever happens, happens. Go Knicks, baby.
Go Cavs too, man. Ditto. Replace the Knicks with the Cavs and ditto.
Yeah, Darius Garland. I didn't even mention him. That's a guy who could be a number 1 in a championship team. We don't know yet. Probably not. but he's a great player who still has room to improve. I see him. He's a little better than RJ is right now. I see them as being very similar players in the long run.
I know one
In
person
terms of value,
who
not in terms of skill set.
I know one person who used to be on this podcast who 100% would the things he would say about that take.
The things he would say, you can end the sentence there.
The thing, guys, this has been fun. It's always great to have Johnny G. Guys, be sure to give old Johnny G a follow there. I have it pulled up right there on Twitter at John_Gonzalez5. Again, at John_Gonzalez5 on Twitter. I still have your graphics, still to this day, ready to go,
Yes,
just in case. Follow him on Twitter. Be sure to follow me on Twitter as well, at OMERQ Show. And be sure to follow Real Take Sports at Real Take Sports, Instagram, Facebook, Real Take Sports Talk, www.realtakesports.com. I promise the blog is gonna be a thing beginning this week because I have time and it's NBA free agency, baby. How can I not blog about it? So we got that. We got a lot more stuff coming in the works. Pro Wrestling, youtube.com/Real Take Wrestling. Subscribe. Leave a 5-star review. All that jazz. Johnny, final word.
Let's go Knicks, baby. It's going to be a wild free agency. Don't take your finger off the button. Keep watching out. Anything can happen. Anything can happen. Who the hell knows? Kevin Durant to the OKC Thunder, baby. Cap space.
Okay, one last thing. USC, UCLA have been notified that their application to join the Big Ten has been accepted. So there you go. That will leave you with that. UCLA and USC to the Big Ten.
Rip
College
football.
College, yeah. The Pac-12 is dead. If you're not the SEC or the Big Ten, go truck yourself. We'll leave you guys with that. Be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, hit that notification bell. As always, people, be happy, be healthy, take care of yourselves, your families, and everyone else you love, and keep it real.